Tonight I am at Letchworth State Park here in beautiful New York, and this is one of my favorite places in the whole world to come. When my wife and I moved here to New York, we met a man that was telling us all about the beautiful places to go, and he told me, he said, the best place in the state of New York to go is Letchworth State Park, and he said it was the Grand Canyon of the East. And I said, well, I've never even heard of it. And he talked about it so much, and so my wife and I came over here, and we could not believe what an amazing place this is. Now, I'm probably about maybe an hour and a half from home right now, but oh my goodness, I love this place. Joseph and I, we just drove up to this spot, and I was just telling Joseph that I think this may be a better drive in the fall even than Skyline Drive down in Virginia, which is saying a lot. Right now this is probably peak week, and I don't know how much you would be able to see behind me, but the leaves are yellow and orange and red, and it is just breathtaking out here right now. And I enjoyed driving in. I'm going to enjoy driving out. But right behind me is the train trestle and one of the many waterfalls here at Letchworth. Amazing place. If you're ever up in this neck of the woods, this is a place you just got to come. There's another amazing waterfall right over there, and if you go further that way, it becomes a canyon. That's why they call it the Grand Canyon of the East, and breathtaking views, just amazing. And the reason I'm here today, and the reason I'm doing the sermon here today, is because they call it the Grand Canyon of the East. I've been to the Grand Canyon out in Arizona a few times, and every time I go, I'm always with other people, and somebody always makes the statement about how beautiful God's creation is, how beautiful God's creation. And even here, I've heard people say the beauty of God's creation. And I try to not be that guy that always wants to go around correcting everybody whenever they say something is not totally accurate. But this is not the beauty of God's creation. This is the beauty of God's destruction. Okay? Most likely, when God created the earth, He did not create it exactly like this. This probably happened about 4,000 years ago when Noah's flood came ravaging through the earth. The Grand Canyon in Arizona, that's not the beauty of God's creation. That's the beauty of God's destruction. And by the way, let me just say this. That canyon down there in the Grand Canyon in Arizona did not evolve over millions and millions and millions of years. Okay? It just didn't. If that were the case, then if evolution were true, and that evolved over millions of years, then you would not be finding the same fossils on the bottom of the canyon as you find on the top of the canyon. Okay, that's just a fact. So, but anyway, but it is the beauty of God's destruction. Okay, God destroyed the earth 4,000 years ago with Noah's flood, but He put it back in just an amazing, beautiful manner. And now we drive through a place like this with the leaves turning colors, and our jaws drop because we are amazed at the beauty of this place. You know, sometimes in a person's life, some things have to get destroyed in order for them to be built back properly. Okay, I want to give you a verse that means a lot to me as a preacher. The book of 2 Timothy was a book that the Apostle Paul, the older preacher, wrote to Timothy, the younger preacher. And one of the things he said to him in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2, he said, "Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season." Now listen to this. He said, "Reprove, rebuke, and exhort with all long suffering and doctrine." So he told Timothy, he said, when you preach, I want you to do three things. I want you to reprove, I want you to rebuke, and I want you to exhort. Now, exhorting, that is positive. Reproving and rebuking is negative. Now, years ago, I was curious, what is the difference in reproving and rebuking? And so I looked up both words in the Greek just to try to find out what's the difference between reproving somebody and rebuking somebody. And here's what I found. Those two words, the Greek definitions are gently, slightly different, but it's just a different way of saying basically the same thing. Okay? So reproving and rebuking are basically negative things, whereas exhorting is a positive thing. So it's interesting that when God had Paul tell Timothy how to preach, he told him to do two negative things and one positive thing. Now, before I get into my short little outline for tonight, let me give you an Old Testament example of this. Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse number 10. Listen to this. Says, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to, and he's getting ready to list 6 things. He said to root out, that's one, to pull down, to destroy, to throw down, and then he said to build and to plant. Okay, so when God told Jeremiah to preach, he told him, here are the 6 things I want you to do with your preaching. 4 of them were negative, 2 of them were positive. And the 4 negatives were tear down, tear down, tear down, tear down. And then the 2 positives were build up, build up. So isn't that similar to what God told Paul to tell Timothy in preaching? That some things have to be torn down before things can be built up. Now let me just give you some quick applications about this today. First of all, I want to say this. We were born wrong. We were born wrong, okay? We were born in such a way where we had to come to a point of being born again later on. I saw a bumper sticker a good while back where a guy, somebody put on their bumper sticker, I was born right the first time. And what they were trying to do is they were mocking the fact that we Christians talk about being born again. So he said, I was born right the first time. Well, my response is no, we were not born right the first time. We were born with a sin nature. And you have to understand that everything that is negative in your life, it comes because of a sin nature that you were born with. And that's why that sin nature has got to be torn down so you can be born again. So the first thought I want to give you is we were born wrong. The second one is a repair job will not do. A repair job will not do. You can't just repair a broken down life. Now, years ago, my wife and I, we bought a home in Maryland. And the home that we bought in Maryland, we had a shed in the backyard, okay? And the shed was just dilapidated. And a buddy of mine who is really good at contractor type things, he told me, he said, the best thing you can do is just tear that thing down and get you a new shed to put in the backyard. Well, I didn't want to do that, okay? I didn't want to put the money into it. I didn't want to put the effort into it. I just didn't want to tear it down and start all over again. Well, it wasn't long that we had to put a new roof on the shed. And then I had to prop up the shed, and then I had to fix some damage to the back. And by the time it was all said and done, I had put more money into the shed than I would have if I'd have just gotten a new one. And at the end of my repair job, I still had an ugly shed. Okay, the lesson I learned was that there are times when you just have to say, just tear it down and start all over again. And you know, you may be at a point right now where you're starting to understand that just putting band-aids on cancer doesn't work. Okay, it just doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to go under the knife, get the cancer out, and be done with it. Okay, that's what you have to do. Trying to take a sinful life, a sinful lifestyle, and tweaking it doesn't work. What you need to do is just let God do to you what he did here. Just tear it down and build it all up again. Talking about a fresh start. And then the third thing I want to say, not only we were born wrong, but not only number 2, a repair job won't work, but number 3, a total makeover is what is needed. A total makeover. You know, here's what I think we struggle with in our surrender to the Lord. We want to surrender to the Lord 50% of our life. But surrendering 50% of your life will not do any good at all. We may get desperate and we want to surrender to the Lord 90% of our life. But surrendering to the Lord 90% of your life will not do. What you have to do is, even the things in your life that you love the most, just step back and say, God, it is yours. It is yours. I'm talking about the beauty of God's destruction. Let God remove some things from your life. Let God take some things. You say, but Pastor, it's a habit that I love. I'm addicted. I'm hooked. Let God remove some things from your life that you love, and just see how beautiful it can be when God rebuilds it.